Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining me here today. I regret to inform you that I do not have a cake. We're here to celebrate the one-year anniversary of Bill C-5 passing into law. That law was aimed at getting big things done quickly, but maybe it's fitting that I don't have a cake today because Mark Carney doesn't have a project. Mark Carney has had the extraordinary powers that C-5 grants the government to get things built. And here we are 1 year later, not a single project has gone through the process to even start. In fact, there are over 500 projects throughout Canada, 500 projects throughout Canada waiting on federal government approval. Literally, the federal government is the thing that's standing in the way of workers being able to work. Carney promised to build big, build bold, and build now. He said he would move at speeds previously thought unimaginable. He must have meant unimaginably slow. Just think about the big announcement he had just 2 days ago. He had a press conference, and in that press conference, he announced that 3 projects that have been languishing for a decade will now be eligible for consultation on possibly being designated to have their permit application move from one federal bureau to another federal bureau for further consultations. It's not fast-tracking to take 9 months to consult if projects should be fast-tracked. Another bureaucracy that requires 3 months of consultations to launch even further consultations is the exact opposite of the build, baby build, Carney promised Canadians. Another illusion. The only thing they have managed to do is to take credit for other people's work. Just look at a few of these. The Darlington nuclear project was approved for construction by the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission before Carney was even elected. Ontario was able to start construction of the road to the Ring of Fire 5 years early with no help from the Major Projects Office or Carney's Liberals. Meanwhile, the Major Projects Office has done nothing to get Canada any closer to building a pipeline to the Pacific, and when presented with a motion to declare that pipeline to be in Canada's national interest, Liberals shut down the Natural Resources Committee to prevent a vote. We know the results. Canada has lost $20 billion in business investment since Carney took office. Canada, under Mark Carney, has the lowest business investment per worker, and Mark Carney is now the only G20 leader to lead his country into a recession. It's clear that more bureaucratic, busy work doesn't build the economy. What will get things built is getting the government out of the way, repealing the anti-development laws, scrapping the industrial carbon tax, and granting permits for construction to begin. Conservatives will get results by getting out of the way, bringing in one application, one review, so projects get approved within a maximum of 1 year and shovels get in the ground faster. C'est 1 an après adopter la loi C-5 visant à bâtir le Canada. Les libéraux n'ont pas utilisé leur nouveau pouvoir pour approuver un seul projet. Mark Carney a promis qu'elle allait bâtir, mais il a livré que des illusions et des annonces réchauffées. 10 mois après le lancement du Bureau des grands projets, 500 projets en attente d'approbation fédérale sont prêts à être construits, mais aucun n'a encore vu le jour. C'est une preuve que d'ajouter une autre bureaucratie n'est pas la solution, mais bien le problème. Au Québec, Mark Carney a réannoncé le projet d'expansion du port de Montréal à Contrecœur. Rien n'a avancé. Les premières autorisations ont été données en 2021 et le financement fédéral avait été annoncé en 2023, presque 3 ans. Le Premier ministre tente aussi de s'attribuer le mérite du lancement des travaux de la mine Nouveau Monde Graphite à Matawini. La réalité est que le projet de mine avançait déjà bien avant l'arrivée du Bureau des grands projets. Le gouvernement du Québec a autorisé la construction en 2021 et Nouveau Monde Graphite travaillait déjà depuis des années sur la préparation de sites pour faire avancer le projet. Tout ce que les libéraux ont à offrir, ce sont plus de coûts, plus de paperasse et plus de retard. Les conservateurs vont obtenir des résultats en arrêtant de mettre des bâtons dans la roue des entrepreneurs, des investisseurs et des travailleurs. On va éliminer les lois anti-développement et mettre en place un système de une demande, un examen. Les projets vont être approuvés dans un délai minimal d'1 an et les travaux vont pouvoir commencer beaucoup plus rapidement. Maximal d'1 an et les travaux vont pouvoir commencer beaucoup plus rapidement. I'd also like to address the disastrous condo bailout policy that Mark Carney announced earlier this week. Liberals are now using tax dollars to buy more than 2,200 vacant units that British Columbians can't afford or don't want at current prices. This developer bailout prevents a price correction. It keeps prices high for developers rather than lowering them for buyers. After facing backlash now, Mark Carney is trying to blame Premier David Eby, and now Premier David Eby is trying to blame Mark Carney. It's such a disastrous program. There's such a big backlash because Canadians understand that when governments use tax dollars to bail out developers, it will artificially keep prices high and prevent working Canadians from being able to afford those very homes. Carney is building an economy of carve-outs, bailouts, and handouts for the Liberal club, and higher costs, debt, and taxes for everyone else. Privatizing the profit and socializing the losses is Mark Carney's approach. Carney is forcing taxpayers to intervene before developers lower prices. Connected Carney insiders and corporate lobbyists get all the benefits while sticking Canadians with all the losses. And now let's look at the facts while this is going on. Despite Carney promising to build 500,000 homes annually, Canada is building barely half that number. CMHC predicts an 18% decline in home building. Housing starts fell 6% in May, after building permits were down 8% in April, according to Statistics Canada. The result is higher housing costs. The average Vancouver home now costs $1.1 million. Demographia ranks Vancouver as the 5th most unaffordable housing market in the world. And according to RBC, it now takes 88.4% of pre-tax median household income to afford a home in Vancouver. Conservatives have a better approach. Get rid of all the red tape and taxes on home building and let builders build, workers work, and buyers buy. Conservatives want Canada to be the fastest place in the world to get a permit. We would take off federal sales tax for homes under $1.3 million and incentivize provinces and municipalities to remove taxes on home building. Our Conservative colleague, MP Brad Redekop's Housing Cost Transparency Act would require a public disclosure of the real-world costs, delays, and affordability impacts of proposed building code changes before they are imposed. Let builders build homes people can afford so Canadians can afford to rent or buy. It's time for a genuine free market where willing buyers and sellers can reach the best price. And let's end the practice of governments interfering in that dynamic, bailing out condo developers, protecting their profits, and keeping those prices high at the expense of working Canadians. Thank you very much, and happy to answer some questions.
What do you think of the PM crowdfunding to raise money for renovations at 24 Sussex?
Well, I know Mark Carney and the Liberals are focused on one home. Conservatives are focused on millions of homes, getting millions of homes built for Canadians so prices can come down.
Et que ce ne soit pas de l'argent public, M. Scheer, en fait, que ce ne soit pas de l'argent du gouvernement, que ce soit des dons. Est-ce que c'est une voie de passage acceptable pour les conservateurs?
Honnêtement, il semble que M. Carney a eu une semaine terrible et il a annoncé cette nouvelle politique pour changer le canal. On n'a pas une vraie proposal d'évaluer. Alors, on va voir comment le gouvernement va gérer ce processus.
Le Premier ministre du Canada a besoin d'une résidence officielle.
We have no objection with. On n'a pas des objections pour des résidences officielles, mais comme je dis, dans le milieu d'une crise de logement, les libéraux maintenant sont concentrés sur une seule maison et les conservateurs vont concentrer sur les millions de.
Raise money for an official residence?
I honestly believe that Mark Carney had such a terrible week with this condo bailout disaster that now he's just quickly trying to change the channel. He's focused on one home, Conservatives are focused on getting millions of homes built.
You've got to live in 2 official residences strewn away on the farm. Shouldn't the Prime Minister have a functional official residence?
As I said, we don't have any objections to official residences. They are part of Canada's history for decades. But what we're saying today is that he's got this proposal that seems awfully quickly put together, coming on the heels of a terrible, disastrous announcement to bail out condo developers. This reads to me like he realized he had a terrible week, and now at the very last minute, he's put together this proposal to try to change the channel. He's focused on one home. Conservatives are focused on getting millions of homes built so that prices can come down and Canadians can afford to live in safe and secure housing.
Do you think it's ethically acceptable, though, for the government to take donations, potentially in the millions of dollars, for an official residence? Or should taxpayers be paying the bill for an official residence, which you say you don't object to?
We are always concerned when Liberals design programs. When you look at the last 11 years, every time the Liberals come up with a scheme or a program or proposal, they find ways to make their friends rich at the expense of Canadians. We are always concerned when Liberals do things because they have shown themselves to put themselves in conflicts of interest. We saw that with the Green Slush Fund, where they stacked the board with Liberal donors and supporters who then funneled the money into their own businesses. We have ethical concerns about the condo bailout as well. Mark Carney says no one approached him directly. Well, does that mean that they approached his housing minister? Does that mean that they hired a lobbyist to talk to the government? Does that mean that government officials were in conversations with developers? He's not being clear on that either. So anytime the Liberals do anything, we're always worried about conflicts of interest, people buying access to the Prime Minister. And this is what we mean when we say Mark Carney is creating a carve-out economy. He's creating an economy where the way you get ahead, the way you get projects built or contracts is to please politicians, not to solve a problem for Canadians, not to convince investors that you've got a good idea. He's doing this with the Sovereign Debt Fund. He's doing this with Bill C-5 powers, where he is creating an economy where access to the Prime Minister and access to the government gives you an edge. That's not how it used to be in this country, and it won't be like that under a Conservative government, where we get government out of the way, respect conflicts of interest laws, let the market decide these things, let workers work, investors invest, and builders build.
So how will Conservatives pay for the overhaul of 24 Sussex, however it has to be done?
Like Mark Carney hasn't shared any of the details with this program with us. He hasn't given us any kind of a briefing. As I said, we are focused on the millions of Canadians that our country needs. I read these stats off. Carney promised to build 500,000 homes annually. We're reaching barely half that number. Housing starts are down. Like, that's what this government should be focused on. That's our message here today.
Clarify on the condo.
Un danger de conflit d'intérêts dans la façon dont il compte financer tout le tout, là.
Il y a toujours des dangers, des conflits d'intérêts avec les libéraux. Ça, c'est la vérité. Leur bilan pour les derniers 11 ans, c'est beaucoup de conflits d'intérêts. Les gens qui appuient le Parti libéral à gagner les contrats, ils ont dirigé l'argent public dans leur propre entreprise. Les derniers 11 ans a démontré aux Canadiens que les libéraux ne peuvent pas être on ne peut pas avoir confiance dans le gouvernement libéral de protéger les contribuables et protéger les régies des conflits d'intérêts.
Do you just want the program scrapped altogether, or are you going to wait for more details from the government?
Well, my message here today is that
The condo program.
yeah. Oh, on the condo program.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about the
Yeah.
We don't believe that profits should be privatized and risk should be, or losses should be socialized. That's what Mark Carney is doing with this. He's literally protecting the wealthy developers who speculated on the market, built units that now are not selling. And when the market is allowed to do its thing, the prices fall. If a grocer goes out and stocks up on cherries and tries to sell them for $20 a pound and nobody buys them, well, he's going to have to drop the prices, and then people can afford them. There's all kinds of examples in this. Every grocery store I go to has a reduce for quick sale aisle. When something doesn't sell, prices fall, and then buyers buy them. That's what should happen in Vancouver. That's absolutely what Conservatives are calling for. Stop this program of using tax dollars to bail out wealthy developers. Let the market correct, and let Vancouverites and people in British Columbia be able to afford homes. Thanks very much, everyone.